Vice President of the European Parliament and very good friend Alejo Vidal-Quadras, Mr. Thomas Sikorskis, on behalf of the Lithuanian Presidency of the European Union, distinguished ambassadors and other members of the diplomatic representations in Brussels, distinguished guests from South Asia, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, my first words are to thank very much Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and most in particular Mrs. Andrea Ostheimer for the opportunity that was given to South Asia Democratic Forum to cooperate in such a fundamental endeavor for the future, I would not say only of South Asia, but I would say of the whole world. I will have the opportunity of making part of the first panel, and therefore I will not extend my comments right now, since we will listen to our both the European Parliament representative and the European Council representative. I would just like to say this is for me a dream I have been nurturing for many years, I would say, from the times I have been in the European Parliament. I have been thinking on this trilogy that now became part of the common lexicon, the water, land, energy trilogy. I think I thought about it before I read it somewhere else, many years ago. And I think we are touching the essential issues for our future. I am absolutely convinced of it. So, without any further delays, I would immediately pass the floor. Perhaps the first to have the floor will be the Vice President Alejo Vidal-Quadras. I would like to thank him very much for his availability. I have the fortune of having been a colleague for quite some time, and it is really an honor to be here next to you. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Paulo. Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Dear Andrea, I congratulate you for your fluent Spanish. I was very impressed. Dear friends and dear colleagues. Paulo was thanking me, but he has nothing to thank because I never say no to Paulo. Because we were working together in some, I would say, very decisive issues in the Parliament for years, and he was such a good colleague that since then we have built a very solid friendship. So apart from the importance of the issue we are discussing today, my friendship with Paulo is the reason that of my presence here today, and it is indeed a privilege to be with you. Paulo is the director of the South Asia Democratic Forum, where they do a very fruitful work. And this conference has been organized, as you all know, by the South Asia Democratic Forum, together with Konrad Adenauer Foundation. So I feel very comfortable here today, because Paulo is not of my political family, but the friendship compensates for that. And Konrad Adenauer belongs to my political family, or I belong to the political family of Konrad Adenauer, to be precise. And also another pleasure is to be with the Council, because you know that Parliament and Council cooperate sometimes, and sometimes we have differences, different opinions. And that's the, I would say, this is the engine of the European Union, this dialectic relationship between Parliament and Council. But we cooperate also very often, and this is one of these days I have the pleasure to be with the semester presidency, in this case, Lithuanian, which is a country that we especially love for many historical reasons, and we admire them. So I'm sure that this morning you will all learn a lot from the panel of experts that will deal with the subject. You will learn a lot on both the challenges and opportunities of water cooperation in South Asia, as well as sharing best practices with European partners and also international partners in general. Of the natural resources, water is arguably our most precious. We need it for drinking, washing, growing crops, industrial processes. In short, we need water to live. Especially in Europe, we can fall into the trap of believing water to be cheap and abundant in supply. And as a Spanish, I can tell you this is not true. In Lithuania, they have a lot of water. Every time I've been in Lithuania, it was raining all the time. But they are very fortunate, they are very fortunate, because I can assure you that in the south of my country, sometimes they would like to be Lithuanians, because we have problems of water from time to time. But it's not true that, as I'm saying, that in Europe, every member state has abundance of water. So we also have, in some member states, this scarcity. Water policy starts with the recognition that this resource is both finite and fragile. With an ever-increasing global population, more and more stress is placed on water. In 2000, the European Union passed the Water Framework Directive, but we are still far from achieving the general objective for 2015, namely to get all water in Europe into a healthy state. Last year, the Commission published the blueprint to safeguard Europe's waters, which contains further guidance on reaching this goal and notes Europe's challenges, such as water pollution and excessive extraction. 60% of European cities overexploit their water. Some of the measures proposed include water pricing based on metering, which should particularly help in the agricultural sector, where 24% of Europe's extracted water is currently used. Meanwhile, South Asia faces challenges of its own. Water does not flow in lines with natural boundaries, and I'm sure we are all familiar with some disputes, such as those between India and Bangladesh over the use of the rivers allocated according to the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty. Pakistan blames Indian dam building for its water shortages, while India struggles to support 18% of global population with just 4% of the world's renewable water resources. Besides the scarcity, other issues are contamination of drinking water, leakages, and overusage. According to a recent Chatham House article, twice as much water is used in Delhi than in London, because when people don't know when they will next have access to water, they take more and store it. I've lived the same phenomenon in Spain in some moments and in some places. Although a continuous water supply would cost India a huge investment, the World Health Organization estimates a very high return due to the resulting health improvements. Against a backdrop of difficulties, some organizations work tirelessly. One example is the Global Water Partnership, funded by the United Nations Development Programme and the World Bank. One interesting case is this. For 6 years, rice farmers and water authorities argued over whether to build a dam on the Nilwala River in Sri Lanka to prevent the entry of seawater. The rice farmers worried they would lose land. The water authorities feared salt water would contaminate drinking water. The GWP held a forum for stakeholders where farmers were shown how salt water can make land infertile by mixing with groundwater. They were also taken to see an example of a dam which led to their agreeing to its construction. We see from this example that mistrust and suspicion can block regional cooperation, and that this can be overcome through open dialogue, clear explanations, and sharing of expertise. What we try to do in the European Union, Ambassador, not always successfully, but we try. These three, dialogue, explanation, and knowledge sharing, can be the European Union's guidelines in cooperating with South Asia on this issue, where there is a scope for more partnership, especially in the areas of cleaner water, more efficient use of funds, and coordinated research and development efforts, such as within the Strategic Forum for International Science and Technology Cooperation. Since most of India's water is currently used for irrigation, the European Union can share micro-irrigation techniques as well as agricultural practices favoring crops which need less water or which can be sustained with saline water. I go again to Spain, where, as you know, in the east part of my country, there is a very rich and quite traditional economic activity based on gardening and vegetables and fruits, and there was a problem of use of water, a very serious problem. And all these technologies, well applied, by the way, some of them we have learned from Israel, which they are real experts on that, have improved things in a way that has been really spectacular and has changed completely the future of this sector. The European Union can also share expertise in the field of waste management, perhaps through platforms such as the European Water Partnership, a non-profit organization aiming to increase international coordination. Demand for water is set to rise in both the European Union and South Asia, and since the issues at stake affect all of us, there is no substitute for cooperation through dialogue. This is then a very timely conference, and I congratulate and I encourage both the South Asia Democratic Forum and the Konrad Adenauer Foundation to continue their good work in this field. And indeed, of course, I am at your full disposal from now for anything I can be of some help for you. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Dear members of academia, members of the European Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to share a few remarks with you this morning on behalf of the Presidency and on behalf of my ambassador, who's right now having a meeting at the European Parliament with Mr. Brok, Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. So I guess this shows our good relations with European Parliament. As well know too well, water is a source of life and a precious natural resource. Bearing in mind the importance of water in March 2013, United Nations defined water security as the availability of water for health, livelihoods, and production in a politically stable environment. Water security is an acute problem in many parts of the world. 1 billion people lack access to potable water, and more than 3 billion do not have adequate sanitation. Some estimates suggest that by 2030 the demand for water could be 40% higher than the currently available supplies. The impact of climate change only further aggravates the availability of water to populations. Mindful of the existing water security challenges, the European Union this July adopted the Council conclusions on new water diplomacy. The Council expressed its concern about the water security situation in many parts of the world and made a number of important suggestions. Let me mention them quickly. Firstly, the water challenges around the world must be tackled through comprehensive responses, taking into account the close links with energy, climate change, and food security, and bringing together a range of actions. We believe that equitable, efficient, and collaborative management of transboundary water resources is an essential element for sustainable development, security, and stability. This is where the EU water diplomacy could get important, we believe. Secondly, the EU has a long and substantive commitment to address the root causes of water challenges around the world, particularly through our work on development and environment and the aid committed for water and sanitation and health programs as part of the EU contribution to the Millennium Development Goals. The EU stands ready to share its experience and expertise. For example, the EU Baltic Sea region strategy, which is a priority area for Lithuanian presidency, could be of interest to you. The strategy launched by the Commission in 2009 aims to save the Baltic Sea, connect the region, and increase prosperity. While being an integral EU strategy, it also seeks to include non-EU countries, for example, Russia. Cooperation with the third countries, which are not members of the European Union, is especially important in the projects of the Baltic Sea region strategy that aim to fight the pollution and to develop the transport infrastructure. Thirdly, the EU should also stay engaged on transboundary challenges and actively promote water cooperation initiatives with countries in the EU neighborhood as well as in other regions. In this context, I would like to mention the EU Water Initiative launched in 2002 to stimulate investment in water and sanitation in many areas around the world, including Asia. Last but not least, the EU encourages the promotion of international agreements on water cooperation. The EU supports the 1992 United Nations Economic Commission for Europe Convention on the Protection of Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes and United Nations Convention on the Law of the Non-Navigational Uses of International Watercourses. Let me close by saying that it's our collective goal to bring more water security through close dialogue and cooperation. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sikorskis. Thank you very much also Honorable Vidal-Quadras for giving us some examples of the kind of challenges we face in Europe when it comes to water management, and especially in your home country in Spain, where water also is a scarce resource, particularly in certain regions. And thank you also very much to Mr. Sikorskis for giving us an overview of the latest policy framework the EU has developed when it comes to water diplomacy and water management within a comprehensive, integrated, and also worldwide approach. So thank you very much.